Mr. Sunil Talati, Chartered Accountant, had been elected as a president of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India for the year 2007 for the first time, 17 years, a CA from Gujarat. Mr. Sunil Talati is MCom LLB FCA, graduate from HL College of Commerce, had held various posts of office bearer like secretary, treasurer, vice president, etc. in Rotary Club, Junior Jaise, and Junior Chamber. He was elected as first Rotary governor in India and then was appointed as national chairman of the Council of Rotary Governors. He was elected as a president of All Gujarat Federation of Tax Consultants for the year 2013-14. He was elected as a member of Governing Council, Accounting, Auditing, and Bookkeeping Service Sector, governed by SEPC, set up by the Ministry of Commerce and Industries, Government of India consecutive for the third term, that is for year 2015-17, 2017-19, and again for the term 2019-21. He was elected as Vice Chairman of the SEPC for the term September 2019 to 2021. He has been elected as Chairman for the term September 2021 to 23. Recently, he has been appointed as an independent director in one of the biggest state government organizations, that is Gujarat State Financial Services Limited by Gujarat Government of India. Now I will request sir to please.
Thank you so much, Naishal Bhai, for that quick introduction, and now requesting sir to please deliberate on the topic. Please, sir.
Chairperson of Ahmedabad branch, Anjali, my dear friend Abhinav, Coordinator Naishal, and my dear professional brothers and sisters. See, secondly, as Chairperson Anjali mentioned, I would say it was not your mistake about saying Aniket. For any father, it is a matter of great pride to be introduced that he is son of so, is father of so and so, rather than a son is introduced that he is son of so and so. So thank you so much for introducing me being father of Aniket Talati, who is president of ICAI, and thanks to you have elected him and sent to the council, and in turn he became the president. Thirdly, you know, I was told the total number of registration. And being a chartered accountant, you know reasonable arithmetic, how many are there in the hall and how many have registration and how many got the CP hours. What I want to tell you is I must compliment and salute you that you really want to learn and therefore you are here. And those who have signed have taken the breakfast, told wife that I will not have the breakfast at home, took breakfast and then went to office or home. They have purchased the CP hours. You have earned the CP hours. That is a difference. And that's what matters the most. You know, for a charter, when I joined the council, it was in the year 2000. When I joined the council, this CP concept was introduced for the first time. Compulsory professional education. Prior to that, ऐसा था ही नहीं. साल में एक या दो conference अहमदाबाद में या बम्बई में होती थी, and people used to meet and exchange. But world over, they realized that this is the profession where if you are not updating yourself with the latest knowledge, development, case laws, circulars, and challenges and innovations, you will be thrown out of the grand practice or grand job that you are performing. And therefore, it is very important. And therefore, CP initially started voluntarily. And there were no other consequences if you don't do CPE. Now, things have day by day changing. And now you must have seen, earlier they were allowing 3 years accumulation. 3 साल में आप 300 घंटे कर लो या 200 घंटे कर लो. तो कई लोग पहले 2 साल कुछ नहीं करते थे. और तीसरे साल में every single CP hours purchase कर देते थे. Let me use that loose language. And therefore the council realized that no, let it not be any carry forward. Every year a CA must do so many hours. Now in that, what I understand and appreciate is that if you do not do what institute is asking you to do for your benefit, not for institute benefit, branch does not want to make money. Let me tell you, institute at present is the richest institute in the world. The surplus fund, if you have the time, kindly go to the balance sheet. Kindly go to the balance sheet of the institute. So institute is not in need, or branches or regional council are not in need of finance from you. They really want to impart knowledge to you so that the professionals in turn acquire knowledge and show the world that we are the best. So that's the fundamental idea of CP. So tell your friends who felt happy कि मैं तो साइन करके चला गया तू बेवकूफ़ था बैठा रहा, that no, it's not so. Those who have attended are more wise and going to be wiser if you feel at the end of the presentation. So let me deal with this topic proper, will and succession planning. Now this is by and large to be dealt with by those who are in practice, and therefore those who are in job or doing service somewhere would feel that what is the importance of this. But let me tell you, each one of you, this is one of the most important action or an act that is required to be done by any reasonably well-settled, well-placed person who is your client. And any person who is our client is certainly a well-placed person in the society because he is filing income tax return, he is getting his tax audit done by you. And therefore he has the wealth. And once he has a wealth, it is extremely important that after he is not here in this earth, what would happen to his estate? That's $1 billion question. And therefore, first and foremost, we have to understand that for every Hindu, if a person dies without making a will, that is called intestate, without mentioning what estate will go to him, that is called intestate. The property will vest to the legal heirs as per class 1 and class 2 of the schedule of Hindu Succession Act. Now what is class 1? Class 1 means wife, that is widow, mother if is living, son, daughter, son's son, daughter's son, daughter's daughter, or son's daughter. Like that, it goes to son, daughter, wife, and if mother is living, to mother. And if son dies, then his grandson also will get. If daughter dies, her daughter or her son would also get. That is class 1. 99% there would be people in class 1. So class 2 would be very less, where if none of these class 1 legal heirs are there, it would go to class 2. You need not go to there. If you go to Google, you will immediately find who are the people who are the legal heirs in class 1 and who are there in the class 2. So you have to tell your client that if you die without making a will, your property will go to all your legal heirs in the same proportion. So if you die and your wife is living, if you have 2 sons and 2 daughters, that means there are 5 people, so each will get 1/5. Now whether you want to give 1/5 to all, your both daughters are well settled, your Jamai Babus are very rich and good, they don't want anything from you. Why should you give 2 daughters? Give to your 2 sons. Or why you should give equal to your daughters? Give more to your son, who has son and son's daughter, and they need to continue the family. The family of your daughter will be taken care of her husband. So why you should give more to daughters and less or equal to the son and daughter? Anything, if son is not under your control. कई दफ़े हम अखबार में न्यूज़ देखते हैं ना, ये मेरा बेटा मेरे कहे में नहीं है, मेरी जायदाद पे उसका कोई हक नहीं रहेगा. So there are that kind of sons also who don't deserve to get anything from father. But if father dies without making a will, such son will also get. Then there could be imbalance. One son is doing excellent, he is a millionaire, the second son is not doing very good. And the father would always wish that why should I give equal to both? Or why should it go without my will equal to both? And therefore he would like to make a will. So please make it clear that death is a certainty. As we have been telling earlier, there are 2 certainties in life, tax and death. We are dealing with the tax day in, day out. Now we have to deal with the death also. There are many youngsters, so don't be afraid, but I am talking of those who are 60 plus, 65 plus, and 70 plus. After 65, I am using this word, we have to tell our clients emphatically, forcefully, and convincingly that please make your will. For 2 reasons. One, as I said, he should know what estate should pass on to whom. And second, we get a reasonable fee. And third, we can do tax planning by making such will. Hitherto, earlier when I joined the practice, drafting of the will was considered to be privilege of lawyers and solicitors. So anyone comes, CA would say, yes, you go to solicitor and draft your will. And solicitors in those years were also charging in lakhs. Why should we pay and allow our client to pay to someone else when we are competent to do that? So this topic today is for you to understand and appreciate how to draft a will, how to advise and suggest our client how to draft a will and execute the will, and in turn what would be the benefit. So that's the fundamental thing. I'm not touching the Muslim law where the estate would go equal to all the legal heirs. Even if there are 4 wives and 11 children, it would go to all 15 equally. But I am not touching upon that. In Christian, the law of will applies. In Parsis also, the law applies of making a will and Hindu Succession Act. So that is the fundamental aspect, that if a will is not executed by a person, and if he dies, then the property would go to all children and the surviving wife, widow, or even if mother is living, in equal proportion. Why I am saying, in COVID, in Ahmedabad, we lost 16 chartered accountants. All of them were in the age of below 60, except 2 of my friends who were with me, Saurabh Choksi and Tushar Vasra. They were with me in my class. So, except those 2, all were below 60, somewhere in 50s. Now imagine what would happen to the family of that. They don't know what is the wealth, they don't know what assets he has left, where he has left, and what in turn they should receive. So this is the first blow. If there is a premature death, the loss is very heavy. But we don't envisage premature death of all our clients, and therefore suggest, please execute the wills once you cross 60 or 65. Why I am saying 65? Because average age of India, as per our census, is 68 years. So average age of India is 68. So therefore at 65, we must advise client to execute the will. That's point 2. Now, third important point is we have to tell the client what wants to give, how much he wants to give, to whom. So he should be clear in that particular aspect. Then comes with required to the requirement of the will. Hundreds of even professionals do not know that will does not require a stamp paper. Recently, a Supreme Court decision has come, if you have read, that even if an agreement is not properly stamped, it does not become invalid. But that's a separate issue, but you should know this as a matter of practice in your day-to-day life, that if the stamp required is 1,000, and if you have executed the agreement on 100 rupees, Supreme Court said that by non-paying full stamp, the agreement does not become invalid. There is a consequence of less payment of stamp. But for will, it is not required to execute on stamp paper at all. Be very clear. Will has to be or can be on a simple plain paper. Point 1. Point 2, it has to be signed by a person who is executing the will in a sound mind. So he should be of a sound mind, not mentally disturbed, not ill, and competent to do contract. Meaning thereby is of a legal sound mind. And third most important thing is, it has to be witnessed by 2 independent persons. Signatures of those 2 witnesses are to be done by each one of them in the presence of each other. Meaning thereby, if X is executing a will and witness is Y and Z, then Y and Z must sign in the presence of X and Z must sign in the presence of Y and X. X ने साइन कर दी, बाद में Y के घर भेजा, उसने साइन कर दी, बाद में Z ने घर भेजा और उसने साइन कर दी. No, that's not allowed, because you don't know whether Z doesn't know whether signature of Y is genuinely of Y, yeah, he has got it done by someone or he has fabricated it. So this is very important. And the person who has signed also must sign in the presence of witness. तो विटनेस बोल सके कि हाँ मेरी प्रेजेंस में उन्होंने साइन किया था और ये उनकी साइन है. Now why this is required? To approve and convince any authority about the correctness and validity of a will. Tomorrow, in any legal heir to whom some amount is not given or less amount is given, goes to the court and says, this will is bogus, this is not the signature of my father. Then if those 2 witnesses come and depose before the court that no, he has signed in our presence, it is his signature, the will be considered as valid and there cannot be any doubt with the challenging of the will. So to avoid challenge of the will, these 2 aspects are very important. Then preamble. The date should be mentioned, the age should be mentioned, the details of family members should be mentioned. Now let me go to the contents of the will. What should be the contention of the will? In the beginning, you have to mention with regard to your name, I, Sunil Talati, aged about 68 years, a Hindu inhabitant, with this will execute my last testament or will. And then you mention, I have not executed any other will before, but if it is found any, or I have executed one will before this, same is hereby revoked and cancelled, and this is my last will. Because what happened, number of times, people keep on changing. Yeah, I'll be happy if you ask the question. No, it can be a family member, it can be outsider, but advisable is to have outsider. Because if there are 4 children, and if you take signature of 2 sons, then 2 daughters will say that no, this is fabricated by 2 sons, and the court will entertain such petitions. And more important, good thing that you asked the question, such witnesses should be always 5 to 10 years younger than the person who is making the will. कई दफ़े क्या होता है, वो दोनों मर गए होते हैं और ये जिंदा होता है. And then the will is challenged, nothing can be done in the court. So always have the witness of an age who is at least 8 to 10 years younger than you. So that's first. Then second, in the preamble you mention about yourself. And then you mention about your family members. There you mention, I am married to so-and-so, my wife name is so-and-so, aged so-and-so. I have 2 sons, 1 daughter. Daughter is married with so-and-so. His name is so-and-so. His children are so-and-so. My sons are married. 1 son is married. His wife name is so-and-so. He has a son. His mother is my grandson name is. You mention everything about your family members. Reason is, tomorrow if we had, for example, presume any unauthorized relation with anyone, a lady should not come and say that this son is of this person. We were illegally staying, and therefore he also has a right because he is also the son of this person. But if he mentions clearly in the will that no, I don't have any other children and relative other than this, that would be considered as final. And an outsider cannot come and say that though he has mentioned 4, effectively he has 5th children also, or 5th son also. So this is very important to mention about all your relatives or your children and their age. Then next step is you mention about what is your total assets. First movable, then immovable. That I am owner of so much shares, so many mutual fund, so much FD, so many bank account, PPF, whatever movable assets are there, you mention them. Or if you are regularly maintaining books of account, I mean the client is maintaining books of account, maintain as per my last balance sheet as filed before the income tax return, along with the income tax return. So that should include everything. If there are unaccounted assets, the same cannot be considered in the will, except yes, sometimes some jewelry can be adjusted, that he has disclosed in the books of account only 20 tolas, but effectively he has 50 tola. He can mention that I am the owner of 50 tolas of gold ornaments or so-and-so diamond items, whatever they are, and that can be adjusted easily. Sometimes when the assets are purchased by this son and they don't have the proof, they use the benefit of will that my father left it and I became the owner of that. So that can always help the person if he is having some gold ornaments or jewelry or certain cash which he has not disclosed in the balance sheet, but to a reasonable extent. Not that I am suggesting to do it, but if it is so, this can always be considered in the will. So that you mention all about your movable properties. And then you describe your immovable properties. I am the owner of 1 house property in a plot situated of 1,000 square yard, construction of 525 square yard, survey number, census number, so and so, the description. If he has more properties, mention the detail about all the properties. So that's the first structure of the will. And then what is required is to be what you want to give to him. And therefore, when you want to see that after your death, these assets go to this person, these assets go to this person, you must appoint an executor. So that is another requirement of a will. Always appoint one person as an executor who will execute the will on the basis of your direction as mentioned in the will. Meaning thereby if there are 2 sons and nobody is to execute, they too will fight. No, I want this particular item, I want this particular item. Father has said that out of 50 tola, 25 mine, I want this 25 tola and not this 25. और ये पाई का हार मुझे चाहिए और चंदन हार मुझे नहीं चाहिए. All kind of things can happen because of wife also of the son interfering. So to avoid all that, it is advisable to have an executor. So executor's duty is to execute the will. After the death, he will sit down and say, okay, this is the bank balance, close it, take it. This is the FD, encash it, and this is yours. These are the gold ornaments. These 25 tolas are yours, these 25 tolas are yours. And he will distribute the entire estate as per the desire of the person who is executing the will. So that is the duty of the executor. Executor can be 1, executor can be 2, executor can be 3. But जितने कम इतने ज़्यादा. वहीवट करता. No stamp duty is involved. On the death of a person, any amount that is transferred or bequeathed to the legatees, that is the legal heirs, does not attract stamp duty. Not required. Notarize also not required. Under the law. Now there are people who are very rich. There are people who know that there are already disturbance with my son and my Jamai Babu. And there are people who know that my two sons are not having good relations. Such people, we should advise them, get it notarized or get it registered. Will can be registered also by paying appropriate stamp duty with the civil court. So that can be done. That is done for those who are afraid of future disputes. If future disputes are not envisaged, there is no necessity. And after executing the will, when future disputes were not envisaged, even if subsequent dispute arise, this plain and simple will, without notary and without registration, is a valid will, and there cannot be a problem. In fact, there is an interesting issue that who can challenge the will? And 20 years before I fought in the tribunal, I know there are some, I don't know whether it was a genuine will or not, but by that will, certain gold ornaments and jewelry were received by a person. And in the search, he produced that will and said that this is the source of this gold ornaments and jewelry, and they are not unaccounted. AO did not believe that, no, I don't accept this is the correct will, this seems to be fabricated or made out story. CIT also confirmed that no, there is no genuineness of the will. And I went to the tribunal and argued that who can challenge the will? It's only the legal heirs who can challenge the will with regard to the genuineness of the will. Beta raji hai, maa raji hai, bahu raji hai, who are you to challenge? And tribunal agreed that yes, it cannot be challenged by an outsider. So it's very important. But if one of the legal heirs, even if the distance under class 2, challenges the will, even one person challenges out of 10 persons who have the right to receive the estate, 9 are saying no, this will is final. But one person challenges, it will go to the court and court will decide whether the signature is valid, whether the person has signed with a sound mind, or it was a forced one or fabricated one, as the case may be. So these are the fundamental issues of drafting a will. And before I go to the tax planning and succession, let me tell friends, all of us also, all those who are sitting here, who are nearer to 65, or you have partner or you have relative chartered accountant who are 65 plus, tell them to plan and execute the will also, including practice or your ownership in the proprietary or in the partnership firm. I have come across at least 10 issues during this tenure of council from 2000 to 2020, that there are issues when a chartered accountant dies with regard to what will happen to his practice. 50 साल 40 साल मेहनत करके इतना प्रैक्टिस बनाया, नहीं मैं तो प्रोप्राइटर, आई एम हैप्पी, जो मुझे 20-30 लाख 50 लाख मिलता है, आई एम हैप्पी. But then overnight you are not there. All your hard work overnight is taken away by someone without any reward to your family members, to your family. Why should it happen? So it's very important for a chartered accountant particularly, whether he's a partner or a proprietor, to execute the will and tell what will happen, who will take over the practice, what should be the condition, what is his understanding. But if he has no one to understand, no one to take over the practice, it is his bad luck. Such situation also happen. But otherwise, you always mention that I have discussion with my friend so-and-so. After my death, my entire practice will go to Mr. So-and-so. He will take away, and every year he will pay 20% of the receipt to my family members for a period of 10 years, for a period of 15 years, as the understanding could be. And there are such instances and cases, and people are working accordingly. But for a chartered accountant, it's very important. Even in partnership, you must understand and arrive at an understanding with your other partners. That after my death, my share will go to rest of the partners, or it would go to my legal heir. First, you have to clear that understanding between partners, and based on that, appropriate direction should be given in the will. So that's very important. I have seen that chartered accountants are sometimes very good in advising others that draft your will, but they don't execute their own will. So that's very unfortunate. And that's what we have to see, that yes, we should not be lacking on that. And I can on this stage say that yes, moment I completed 70 years, And when we came back from the celebration, the first thing I did was I executed my will. I can publicly say I have 2 sons, no other issue, and I have executed the will appropriately based on the existing requirement. Now, why I'm saying is, I am now 73. Whatever I have mentioned, or whatever your client mentions, or what you mentioned, that I am the owner of so many assets, I have so many immovable properties. After 5 or 10 years, God is kind with you, you survive up to 80, 82, 85. By that time, you have purchased one more immovable property, one more farmhouse, some more shares, some more gold ornaments. And you have not mentioned that in the will. Now, what would happen? So, there are 2 aspects in that. One is you revise the will. One is called codicil, or second is a fresh will. Codicil is whatever you have mentioned in the will remains, but you want to change certain things. So, whatever small changes you make is called codicil. It is part of the will. Or secondly, you revise the entire will. So, in the beginning you mentioned I had executed one will in the year 2021, same is hereby revoked, and in 2029 so and so, and I am now making this final will, and the earlier will stands cancelled. That's one. But by chance you forget, and there are no scope available to revise the will or execute codicil. Then it is always mentioned in the last paragraph. We always mention that, and we learn this from solicitors, that whatever other assets other than mentioned above, both immovable and immovable, if I am found to be owner of the same, over which I have the disposing power, the same also shall be distributed equally between my sons, or 60-40 between my 2 sons, or 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, as ever you want. So whatever is left is covered by your last concluding paragraph. So no assets are left unbequeathed to any of the legatees. Person legal heirs who receive the estate are called legatees. Whatever is given by the person on will is called bequeath. These are all original English words which are continued to be used as such. So this is the fundamental concept and idea of, yes. Very good question, yeah. See, this is possible that normally a person would execute only one will, and court also by and large entertains one will, which covers everything. But there is no ban to execute more than one will. Let us presume this situation, or as I mentioned in the earlier, other situation where he wants to give to someone and does not want the family members to know. So he would execute another will. And in that would mention, I am also the owner, I have executed one will, giving so many assets to so much, but this will is executed to give so much to so. So if a client is your non-resident, he has estate in or assets in USA, in Canada, or in Middle East, he can mention about those assets also. But suppose he has become resident of particular state, for example in Dubai, suppose he is in Middle East and he has assets there, and there if he is also a resident by virtue of he himself transferring from India to Dubai, and if he dies there, then he is not governed by Hindu Succession Act, he is governed by the Shariat Act of the Dubai. And the assets would go accordingly first to Shariat, and balance only can be executed. So he has to be well aware with the law of Shariat in Middle East. Pending that, if he has assets in USA, UK, there are inheritance tax. So he has to pay that inheritance tax, and then balance he can distribute either in the will executed in India, or a separate will to be executed and made in USA, and for the separate will to be executed and made in Canada for the Canadian assets or American assets. There is no difficulty in that, and he can execute separate will also. So this is the fundamental structure, as I told you, friend. Importance of will, how it should be executed, where it is to be executed, and it should contain what. So your client has to be convinced. Many clients are saying, I know one of the very, very big multimillionaire in Ahmedabad, and when he reached 85, I was constantly telling him that, sir, please execute the will. But they had a strong belief in their family that moment one executes the will, the next month he dies. So he was saying, yeah, next year, like that he was postponing. But fortunately, my consistent follow-up, or I can say torturing, convinced him. And after executing a will also, he lived for 2-3 years, and then he died. So that belief also was removed that yes, will करने के 1 महीने के बाद चले जाएंगे, वो भी नहीं हुआ, और अच्छी तरह से will execute किया. Why I'm mentioning is that you have to convince your client, भैया जल्दी करो, will execute करो, कल उठ के प्रॉब्लम आएगा तो आपके ही सन मेरा सर खाएंगे कि भी किसको क्या ले जाऊँ, और मेरा HUF बनाए कि नहीं बनाए, ये मेरे HUF में चाहिए कि नहीं चाहिए. So all those issues can be done. And last and most important tip, don't settle this drafting of the will for a less fee. It's a very important document. Any other document can be altered, changed during your lifetime. But here, once the will is executed and person dies, nothing can be done. You can't change. Even if there was a mistake, it is gone. Even if the intention is changed, it is gone. So you have to be very careful. Tell your client, think twice, think thrice before drafting and finalizing what you want to give to whom. And revisit every 3-5 years if there are changes in the family or changes in the assets. And you can always advise him to make fresh will. I would strongly suggest to make fresh will, because every new fresh will give you chance to raise new fresh bill. So that is very important. And nowadays, the practice is only there. From which area and from where we can give best services and give best fees. Otherwise, everything is online. Client does not recognize the difference between an excellent CA and an ordinary CA who files the return based on the details given by him or GST return details given by him. But such value-added services only will give you value addition in your professional fees. So that's with regard to the concept of will. Now let us take off tax planning, what is to be done, or succession planning. Succession planning is very important. And before that, how can the tax planning can be done by executing a will? If your son has married and the wife does not have any income, he had a love marriage and the lady has come from very ordinary family, you can give more item to the lady rather than your, that is son's wife, rather than giving it to your son. If the son has already born, the grandson, then give it to him as a minor. Whatever would happen subsequently under section 64, let it be there. But the moment the grandson would become 18, he will be straight away millionaire. So you can jump the queue and give it to your son's son or son's wife. If the son and wife has got married, they have a son or they have a daughter, but he never came to you or it never struck to you that now there is a Hindu undivided family in existence and you have not drafted the HUF deed, then assets can be given to HUF. That I have my son whose HUF consists of himself, his wife and his son, or himself, his wife and daughter, and therefore the asset, so much of the amount or so much of the shares or assets should go to the HUF. And now remember friends, very important amendment in section 9 of Hindu Succession Act, that now daughters are given equivalent right that of a son, that is co-partner. Earlier only male son was considered to be co-partner and a daughter was considered to be a member. Now with the amendment in Hindu Succession Act section 9, daughter is equivalent to son, meaning thereby daughter is co-partner, meaning thereby she also has a right to claim partition. The Surjit Lal Chabra, original Supreme Court decision was that you must have a male son to have HUF, and the principle was that there should be one more person to claim partition. Father, mother and daughter, there is no other male person who can claim partition and therefore it is not an HUF. But father, mother and son, there is a male person, he can claim partition, being co-partner. He can say, give my 1/3 and therefore it is an HUF. But now you can have HUF of your client who has father, mother and daughter also. 2 daughters, 1 son, no son, 2 daughters, 1 daughter. HUF is in existence and you can start planning on that. So that is the first tax planning possible to be given. Then second is if your client is rich and you don't want to give specific to immediate your son or son's son and you want to jump one more generation, then it's always advisable, and we do it regularly, to create a discretionary trust in the will. Trust, but which is a discretionary trust. Now what is a discretionary trust? As you know, the trust is a power that at the end of every year, whatever is the income, need not be given as per the trust deed, one third, one third, one third, to son, wife, and daughter. But trustees can give to any one of them, to one or more of them, or to none of them, and accumulate. So distribution of the income of the trust will be on the discretion of the trustees. Now, such discretionary trust, if created during the lifetime, Section 161 of the Income Tax Act says it will be liable at maximum marginal rate, that is 33%. But if there is one discretionary trust created under a will, then such trust is to be taxed at a normal rate, meaning thereby one more human person available to you, artificial juridical person, trust AOP. तो एक और इनकम टैक्स की फाइल हो गई, तो उसका विल की भी फी मिली और ट्रस्ट बनाया, उसकी इनकम टैक्स की भी आपको फाइल मिली. उसमें अगर वो धंधा करना चाहता है तो एक तीसरी ऑडिट का भी काम मिला. सो दिस जस्ट इन अ लाइटर वे, बट आइडिया इज दैट यू कैन create a tax planning structure by jumping the queue and giving benefit. So in the discretionary trust, it has to be mentioned that the entire, this amount, suppose he has 10 crore rupees. I said 3 crore rupees out of this is to be settled in a discretionary trust called Talati Family Trust. Beneficiaries will be, say, Aniket, Atit, Aniket's wife, Atit's wife, Aniket's children, Atit's children, future wife of Aniket, Atit's son, future husband of Aniket's daughter, future children of Aniket's daughter, future son or daughter of Atit. Like that, you can jump one more generation. So after your death, the trust can continue for 18 years. And in that 18 years period, the grandson would be major, he would get married and he will have one addition in the family. And straight away that amount can be given to that person. And for all these intervening 18 years, you can file the return of income as an AOP. Up to 2,50,000 it will be nil. About 2,50,000 you pay at a normal rate. So this is a very good tax planning. And on rich clients, I would say, rich clients, you must always suggest to create a discretionary trust. And creating a discretionary trust in a will normally will be chargeable, double the fees than that you charge for the normal will. So keep this thing also in mind, that suppose normal will you are going to charge 25,000. If you create a discretionary trust in the will, minimum you should charge is 50,000. Why I'm saying all that? Because chartered accountants are considered to be very, very meager and poor in charging the fees. Advocate दाड़ से 1 लाख रुपया ले लेगा. हम बोलते हैं यार 25,000 है ट्रस्ट बने, चल 30,000 दे दे, तू भी खुश मैं भी खुश. वो तो खुश रहेगा ही, पर आपको भी खुश होना है. And that can be done if you charge appropriate professional fees. So that's very important of creation of a discretionary trust. Then you can also, as I said, give it to HUF, and one more HUF can be created. If you have 2 sons and they have not created the HUF, you can mention in the future whenever my sons get married and he has a wife and then his daughter, it will consist of an HUF so-and-so, and this will be given to HUF at that time. Till then, it will be given to individual. So like that also, you can mention in the will that till my sons get married, it is individual. Moment he get married, this will go to his HUF. So one more entity is also created like that. So this is very important. Then decision about how much to give to son, how much to give to daughter, how much to give to daughter-in-law. This is social as well as financial, and from taxation point very important. And all depends on आपके जमाई बाबू कैसे हैं. It's very, very important. If you know that yes, my son-in-law is fine, he have rich, wealthy, he never ask, पापा कार भेज देना, आज मेरे पास कार नहीं है. Meaning thereby, he is self-sufficient and never looks upon your assets. And that kind of son-in-law is different. And if son-in-law always has an eye, oh, वाह क्या बात है, मारुति बेच के आप Mercedes ले आए, meaning thereby he is watching his father-in-law's assets. And such persons, how it should be given, you have to keep in mind. Reason is that if a daughter is not given proportionately, or if a daughter or his husband, her husband is greedy, then the disputes can arise after the death of the person. And therefore, I always suggest that if you give imbalance, unequal to son and daughter, always mention the reason. Not in detail, but basic. That I have already given substantial gold ornaments and amount to my daughter at the time of her marriage. I have also given to her from time to time on the birth of her children and on various social occasions. And therefore, I do not want to give the same amount or same element as I'm giving to my son, and therefore I'm giving to my daughter only this much. And stop there. If there are no good relations, don't mention my son-in-law is useless, he does not, all that. No, I tell you, I had one such client who came out with the point with 17 pages, mentioning, I don't want to give to this grandson because उसने मेरे साथ ऐसा किया, उसने मेरे साथ ऐसा किया. क्या क्या किया, क्यों किया वो मत लिखो. But mention in short that he is sufficient, I don't want to give him. Or he does not deserve, I don't want to give him. He is not under my control, he does not believe me, I don't want to give him. Mention in short. So when in the future the court or any person reads, he would say, भैया देख, तेरा बाप का कभी तू कहना नहीं मानता था और अब लाइन में खड़ा है लेने के लिए. So that's not allowed. So that is very important to mention why you are giving unequal or disproportionate to all your legal heirs. So that's very important. So giving to daughter-in-law or son-in-law or children of daughter can also be planned accordingly. There are many father I've seen that son is well placed and daughter is not well placed. Son-in-law was good, but ultimately is not now doing good. Or some physical ailments came and he became helpless. So at such a time, they always give more to daughter. That my son is earning sufficiently, all that, but my daughter is not well placed. Therefore, I want to give her more, and therefore I am giving this much to her. So that son's wife should not come and fight. ये इसको क्यों मिल गया, मेरी ननद को कैसे ज़्यादा मिला, अपने को कम मिला. So that should not happen. So mention that in the short. Then another aspect is with regard to the charity. Number of times, you earn, your client earns, make money, but does not believe in charity. And it is only realized after you reach a certain age and stage that yes, God has been kind, He has given me so much. It's time now to give back to the society. Sometimes it is late. And at the end he realized, no, I want to give back. So we always create a charitable trust through will. A person who has substantial income and wealth, at the end feels that बेटों को बेटी को तो बहुत दिया but थोड़ा समाज को भी देना है. So it is advisable to create a charitable trust also through such will, and a charitable trust can also be created through will. Other terms and conditions of charitable trust, it can be mentioned in the will that I want to give 1 crore rupees to Talati charitable trust, which should come into existence immediately after my death, and all amount of the mutual fund which is there should be transferred to Talati charitable trust. The terms and conditions of Talati charitable trust will be settled by the trustees, Aniket and so and so. So then those terms and conditions in the charitable trust which we draft during the during the continuity can be mentioned in that charitable trust came into existence after the death of the person. So that is important.
If an immovable property is given or decided that you will be giving this flat or this shop for charity purpose, the proceeds will come to the charitable trust because it will happen only after the person dies.
No. See, there are two aspects. You have a flat which is unoccupied or given on a rent, and now you want to say, ये पूरा flat मुझे charity में देना है. So you have to mention the entire flat goes to Talati charitable trust. But you want to say, नहीं ये flat रख के क्या करेंगे, लड़के को problem हो जाएगा. Then you mention, say so and so flat shall be sold after the date of my death, within 3 months of the date of my death. You must mention the reasonable period also. And whatever are the sale proceeds, after paying tax, whatever is left should go to the corpus of the charitable trust.
Tax has to be paid.
Obviously, if it is sold after the date of the death,
Who pays?
the legatees, estate of late so and so. Because it vested in the charitable trust or it vested in a person who becomes the owner of that.
Now you are putting in Talati charitable trust.
So if that is what I'm saying. So whether you are giving flat to Talati charitable trust, straight away it goes to Talati charitable trust. And then Talati charitable trust sells. But if you mention that no, before it goes to Talati charitable trust, the flat should be sold out. And an amount of, out of that amount of 1 crore should be to Talati. Then the tax has to be paid. So I think I have dealt with, I've already crossed 11:15. But succession planning is very important, which I mentioned in the beginning for chartered accountants. Always be careful. Life is very clear. हम आए हैं और जाना है. सबको ही जाना है एक दिन. It is matter of date, which is fixed by God Almighty. We don't know. But what will happen to my practice? What will happen to my files? What will happen to my clients' future compliances? For that, succession planning is very important. all those who are elders, I'm telling them since last 15 years at the top of my voice, please recruit and admit youngster as a partner. Let him run the practice and you gradually retire and take the goodwill over a period of time. If you don't do, overnight your practice will go. If you have relative in the family who is going to take over the practice, please organize accordingly that my bhatija ya bhanja ya bhanji jo bhi hai, usko ye practice chali jaye or over a period of time, I get the retirement. It's always beneficial. There are 6-7 cases in Ahmedabad in last 5 years where they have sold the practice and they are receiving the goodwill or the fees every year over a period of 5 years, 7, depending on the volume and quantum of the client. So that is very important for a chartered accountant to do tax succession planning. But your clients also should be advised by you to do succession planning. As of now, there is no estate duty. When I started the practice, I'm telling you friends, in the year 77, the first case I appeared in the income tax department was of estate duty. And then the other cases followed. But then the estate duty was removed by 1981. And now there is no estate duty, no duty on the death of a person. It is called inheritance tax. It's there in many foreign countries. And rumors are since 4-5 years that it will come in India. And therefore all rich, multi-millionaire, I would say not millionaire, multi-millionaire SSCs have started succession planning. And the fees charged by banks and solicitors, 90% of this inheritance work unfortunately has gone to solicitors. They charge 25 lakhs, 15 lakhs, 30 lakhs, that kind of fees for succession planning. Now what is the succession planning? That when you die, you should have minimum assets and your children should have more assets. So trusts are created during the lifetime. That out of 100 crore you have, 30 crore please give to this daughter. 35 crore gives to this son. And balance you keep 30 crore. Or even 30 crore is too much, give 45 crore to him, 45 crore. And balance you keep. So this is called succession planning. I'm not going to technicalities of this. But this are being done regularly and we have done also in 2-3 cases in Ahmedabad. But as I told you, it is advisable only for those who are multi-millionaire and not reasonable rich or millionaire also. Care to be taken is that don't give everything to your children. And the best example, as you all know, is of Singhanias. For this kind of tax planning of inheritance law, father gave everything to the son and son drew outside the house. It is the second largest house after Ambani, biggest house in Mumbai, in India, opposite Bishkendi Hospital, 16-story building. And the poor parents are staying in a small row house of just 1 bedroom and 1 drawing room. So I always tell your clients, कितना भी अच्छा बेटा है, कितना भी समझदार है, बहुत मानता है, सुबह शाम उसकी बहू भी सासू के पाँव दबाती है, don't give everything to your son or daughter during your lifetime. A house minimum to stay and minimum assets so as to earn reasonable income to meet your household expenditure must always be retained by you. It's better that government takes away something after your death instead of you begging with your son and daughter during your lifetime. So that's very important. So I thought, friends, these are the fundamental concepts of succession in Hindu law. On Hindu law itself, I speak for 2 hours, but that's a separate topic. Yes?
Can we have more than one discretionary trust in the will?
No. When I did the first will, in those years, in 83 or 84, we had 16 trusts made in that. That was allowed. But government realized that this tax planning under section 161(1), they are creating more than one trust. So the amendment came in 91. And it is clearly mentioned, provided such discretionary trust is the only one trust during the life. Just like HUF. You know, we are doing multiple HUF also. एक HUF था, उसमें से 15-15, 20-20 HUF बनाए थे. वो भी बंद हो गया. Partial partition is now not allowed. So all kind of fancy tax planning is now not allowed.
Sir, who should be the trustees in discretionary trust?
Your reliable, trustworthy person. The name trustee suggests trustee. जिसके पे आपको ट्रस्ट है उसी को ट्रस्टी बनाना. और एकदम क्लोज फ्रेंड को मेरी पर्सनल एडवाइस है फ्रॉम एक्सपीरियंस, नॉट ऑफ माइंड ऑफ अदर्स, कभी मत बनाना. वाई बाद में बताऊंगा, नॉट फ्रॉम द स्टेज. या Oh yes, it can be one-page will also. Whatever I have, over which I have a disposing power, or all the movable assets and immovable assets which are found to be in my name, are hereby given to my two sons equally. That can be also done.
And suppose you have only bank or demat account which already have a nominee in itself.
Recently, the decision has come for Companies Act that nomination in company is not final, the Will and Hindu Succession Act would prevail. So nomination not necessarily will entitle him to get the balance or the share transferred in the name.
But bank usually easily transferred if you have a
Yeah.
nominee. And
They do it because unless it is a challenge, एक दफे एक बैंक मैनेजर को कोर्ट का नोटिस आया कि why you give it to nominee when the will says give it to him, वो बंद कर देंगे. जब तक चलता है they don't object. And nomination is compulsory and therefore you have to give a name. So ऐसे टाइम पे क्या करना चाहिए अगर नॉमिनेशन कर दिया है आपने और विल में आपको लगे कि नॉमिनेशन एक्स का है बट मुझे वाई को देना है, चेंज द नॉमिनेशन साइमल्टेनियसली. वेरी इजी. माइक पे बोलेंगे थोड़ा मुझे 70 के बाद.
Person getting the, I mean, making the will and getting the ancestral property from his seniors. In that case, can he make will in the different proportions to his son and?
Yes, yes, very good question. See what happens, person is executing a will. Say let us say he's 67 years old and he says I have this much, this much, this much. They are given as I told you earlier different. But his father is living or his uncle is living who has no issue and he dies and in his will he gives to this person. अभी इसको तो पता नहीं था कि मेरे को ये लॉटरी लगने वाली है और वो मिल गया. So he may mention that if I receive any amount in future from my father, from my uncle, from my relative or from any other person, the same would be added in my estate and the same will be distributed to my so institution.
Good morning, sir. One question is regarding a lady executed one will and she appointed two administrators. And after her death, she has mentioned in the will that my property, immovable property, is to be sold by the administrator and amount received will be shared between my two sons equally. But the gentleman who was nominated as the administrator was advised by some of our professional colleagues that you are required to constitute one AOP for the administration of the will and obtain a PAN, open bank account, so on and so forth. Whether it is required?
See, when you have a property which is bequeathed by a person, mentioning that it should be sold and then given to two persons, it cannot go to one son.
Yes.
Unless the executors are smart and sons are honest, executors will say, okay, give this, transfer this asset in the name of one son. The second son give his consent that I waive my right to receive and everything should be given to my son one. Then it becomes in his name. Then he sells, pays the tax, and then 50% he gives gift to the brother. So that is possible one way. But if all these things is not to be done, it is correctly advised that you have to create a AOP called estate of late so and so. So that will become an AOP. For that, or an individual, for that you have to obtain a PAN. You have to file a return of income and pay the tax on that. It is called estate of late so and so. In fact, in early years when I started practice, most of these textile owners were never executing the will for 10-15 years. And they were continuing estate of late so and so. क्योंकि उस जमाने एक और फाइल मिल गई तो 2.5 लाख का उसने जो 1 लाख का एग्जामिशन था वो भी मिला और एक टैक्स प्लानिंग भी मिल गया. So purposely they were not executing the will. But then the children are smarter. वो executor को पकड़ते हैं भैया जल्दी कर बाप ने दिया है उनको चाहिए. So now people are executing fast. Any other questions? Fine. I'm happy. I'm more happy because of the questions that have come. And Anjali was confident, sorry, she's not there. She was confident that there would be some question answer. And that shows the enthusiasm, the interest and keenness that you have in direct tax as well as in your practice. If you have in future also any question, you're most welcome to call upon me. and I'll be happy to give you answer to that, friends. Thank you so much for the patient hearing.
Thank you very much, sir, for guiding us on such an important topic of everybody's life. I would like to end the sessions of now.